Coming up on deck, staying up in a down market. One solution, trading places. And we don't mean the TV program. We'll explain when Scoreboard continues. And tonight's version of how to stay up in a down market, housing. Frustrated buyers and sellers becoming traders, swapping their house for somebody else's house across country or across town. And new websites are helping to make the matches. Is it a threat to realtors or a creative way to move properties? Now, 8 months ago, David Moskowitz created DomusSwap.com, and he joins us now from Tampa. Did I get the name right, David?
It's DomusSwap.com.
Domus
From
Swap.
Domus.
Domus. Okay, Domus Swap. How does it work?
Well, we're essentially an online matchmaking service for homeowners. We ask the sellers to input what they have to sell and what they're looking to trade for, and then we've developed a computer program that does the matchmaking behind the scenes and calculates all the possible matches that might be possible. After that, we'll put the two parties in contact with each other, transfer in contact information if both parties accept, and then they'll take it from there. They'll have to contact a lawyer, work with a mortgage company, and make the deal happen offline. Now, we only put the two parties together.
Okay, what are the risks here?
It's the same as buying a property. Most of the risks are the risk of purchasing a property. You have to worry about the title, the inspection. These all stay. Now, the difference in swapping is that we have two sales that happen simultaneously. So there's the additional risk. We want to make sure it all happens at the same time. So we want a good lawyer who understands this. The real difficulty in this market is finding a buyer for your property. That's the problem we're trying to solve.
Well, here's one risk. The Journal had a piece in it today, the Wall Street Journal, which is why one of the reasons we're talking about it. But what happens if, in fact, one side of the trade is made and the other is? Is there a chance where one person can get stuck holding two houses?
Well, again, you want a good lawyer for that. The title company should be involved. There's a lot of risk in buying property. Every property I've ever bought always had its problems, always things you don't expect. I don't see that as the big issue with this.
All right, and one big savings, by the way, is there's no real estate broker, so you save about 4 to, 7%, right?
Well, let me add as a caveat, that's only if you choose not to use a realtor. We look at DomusSwap as valuable for sale by owner listings as well as realtors. And as an example, I have my house on the site as a swap. We have a realtor. I feel realtors offer a valuable service. Our site is valuable to a realtor in that it gives them a chance to sell that property and make their commission. But right now, about 90% of our listings are by individual owners, which is fine. That's where the market's taking us right now. But I don't cater to one or the other. Yeah,
it's all a fluid situation. David, stay with us. Joining us from Atlanta, Wilma and Alan Sawtell. They swapped their home in Nevada, with a couple who had a home in Georgia, 2,000 miles away. I guess you had to learn how to say Nevada, too, didn't you?
Absolutely.
So tell us, first of all, were there any downsides to this move?
There's no downside for us. You have to approach this type of a transaction, as the nice gentleman just said, as two sales. You still have the same issues that you would deal with if I simply bought their house or they simply bought my house. You need to do due diligence. We, in fact, all parties in my transaction were represented by licensed real estate brokers that happened to be realtors. And we each had a good closing agent. Out west in Nevada, we have what we call dry closing. So we just use a title company and an escrow. Here in Georgia, we have what we call wet closings, where you need an attorney to do it. We found the most fabulous closing attorney here in the Atlanta area that handled both ends of the transaction and coordinated it with the title company and escrow company in Nevada. And there were also, excuse me,
yeah, go ahead.
Just let me finish.
Sure.
We each obtained new financing when we did this. So it was two arm's length purchases, but they just had to close simultaneously.
Interesting. Now, Wilma, we should explain what was happening here. You folks, I believe, were trying to move closer to your grandchildren who lived in Georgia, correct?
Well, Yes, our daughter and her family lived in Las Vegas, and they sold their house in the summer and moved to Chattanooga. And we were pretty much tired of the desert and wanted to be closer to them, so we wanted to live within an hour's drive of Chattanooga.
And you found a family that wanted to move to Nevada because they had to move there for their work, right?
That's true. The lady had been offered a nice promotion, but she had to be in Nevada.
So how did you actually come to meet each other? First of all, I assume you spent some time going to Georgia or going to Chattanooga, taking a look at the property, right?
Well, that was sort of after we had made the deal. We did all the online. We had our house a virtual tour, and once we had met with the Farrs, they sent pictures, and then within about 72 hours after our first conversation with them, they were in Nevada because they were there looking for a home, and then a couple of months later we came here. So.
But if you do something sight unseen, aren't you always a little disappointed in something? Maybe sometimes you find something you didn't expect, but were you disappointed when you actually saw the house?
Absolutely not. We were thrilled with the house. It's exactly what we wanted, and right where we wanted to be.
Alan, was it the right size for you?
Everything was great about it, and you must understand in this type of transactions, I want to reiterate, these were two separate sales. We approached the purchase of their house just as if it was all that was happening, and they approached the purchase of our house the same way. They came to Nevada, inspected our real estate, did their due diligence. We came to Georgia, inspected their real property, did our due diligence. We were both represented by realtors. The contracts were drawn up by realtors, professionals. So we really, both parties knew exactly what they were buying before we executed the purchase contracts.
By the way, before you settled with the Farrs, you had a couple of other offers. Some of them were a little exotic, including one in Costa Rica, right?
That is correct. We also had the most beautiful waterfront house offered to us in Newfoundland. I just couldn't quite get there. But no, gorgeous home, free and clear of trade. But there were other properties that were also doable. But the ones that the Farrs had just fit us to a T, and our situation was a must-do for them. So it was really a great deal for everybody involved.
Boy, and it changes your life environment. Imagine the difference between Nevada, Newfoundland, and Georgia. I mean, you got quite a choice there of changing your worldview. If you could stay with us for a second, Mr. and Mrs. Sawtelle, we want to bring in John Layfield of Fox Business and Russell Perlman, Senior Markets Editor at Smart Money Magazine. John, it's a great idea, isn't it?
I think it's a fantastic idea, especially with the housing market as it is right now. One of the problems with our economy is the financials. The capital balance sheets have eroded so greatly, they're not lending money. And for these people, home prices are the last lagging indicator in a housing downturn. These are starting to fall off a cliff now. Anytime these folks can get out of their home, that's good for them.
So this is a way to bypass the whole mortgage market.
That's right. It is an option to kind of avoid realtors if you want entirely. It's essentially, it sounds to me like an online dating service where it's like you try people, you're trying various homes out, see which one is a good fit for you, and if it works, you make a deal.
Well,
but
David Moskowitz, you alluded to that in the beginning. You suggested that it was a little like a dating service, right?
Right. I really developed this thing and the idea of selling my property. As I developed it, I realized it's just the same as an online dating service. The analogies go from start to finish. Instead of a home sale, an online dating service, they might be end with a marriage, is a lot of people's goals there.
Well, my question for the Sawtelles is, at what point in your buying process did you decide, hey, look, perhaps a trade would be better than just going to Georgia and looking for a new house that you could buy on your own?
Mr. Sawtelle?
Well, it's pretty simple. I owned a house in Nevada. It happened to be free and clear, but I couldn't walk off and leave it. I needed to sell my house in order to buy a house somewhere close to my kids. So the secret ingredient was finding somebody with the same needs I have that wanted to move to southern Nevada. And that's where the dating service works. As far as the transaction goes, it's just another real estate transaction. And I want to bring this up again. We both got new mortgages on our homes, and they're both FHA government-insured mortgages. So it's doable.
What about the tax issues, if they're involved at all? I guess first I'd go to David on that one. Are tax issues basically the same, or in barters or trades, do they differ somehow?
Well, again, I'm not the expert on this, but a lot of people feel that if I do an exchange, that's a 1031 exchange. Well, actually, it's not. A 1031 is a transfer of investment property. My site, DomaSwap, deals with homeowners who can't buy another house until they sell their existing. In that, we don't have the benefit of a 1031, but
By the way, a 1031, just for the viewers who don't know, is what?
A 1031 is a like-kind exchange of investment property. And again, our site is really not focused towards investors. It's focused on the average homeowner who, like the couple with us, need to move due to a life-changing event, a relocation, who just can't buy the property they need to until they sell their existing house. So we try to increase the pool of buyers. We find buyers who will buy their current house, and they'll buy their house.
Well, Mr. Sawtelle, did you walk away with capital gains from the deal?
It's irrelevant for me. It was a roll. In other words, if you sell your house and you buy another house within a certain period of time, I am not a tax expert, but you transfer the tax basis. It's a roll. Plus, you also have certain exemptions. $250,000 for each partner that you can exempt on the sale of a personal residence. Remember, these are two separate sales. The barter is just the dating game, meeting each other. The sale is a regular real estate transaction.
Well, it's a fascinating development, and again, it just shows that we live in a country that can come up with solutions. We don't have to look to the politicians in Washington to find those solutions. The Sawtelles found it, and David Moskowitz has as well. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate it. Coming up on deck, the next time